and we're silent and waiting. And then I go sit in the front of the boat. And one comes up right in front. And I get real excited and I look back and let's go, let's go. That feeling of cooperation and all these things coming together for this one moment. There's the cooperation, the communication, the silent communication, because there's something there that doesn't happen a lot. You know, it's particular to this kind of effort. And I'm setting the pace and I could feel them oaring with me. You know, the same beat, same stroke, we're all going together. And I'm not thinking or anything. You asked what was going through my head. Nothing. It was just happening. Stuff was unfolding before me. It's an adrenaline rush that's so crazy you don't even, it's almost like it's in your blood.
Everything that was gathered over the year was to prepare for the whale hunt. When you're out on the ice, you have to keep your cool, you have to stay calm and know your elements, know what you're getting into. It took teamwork. Not only did the captain have to get his crew together, but it took several crews once a whale was struck to be landed and to be butchered and to be divided amongst the community.
God's blessings are in the house. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for today. Thank you, for God, for giving us this special day, Lord, that you had provided for us. And we thank you most of all for the gift of the whale you had given for the We thank you for gifting it.
Whaling is part of our culture that we have faith and belief. Of our spirituality, our customary diet. It's the core value of what whaling is so important. It's been passed on of immortal time. Whale is part of us as Inupiat.
For the western Arctic coast, including Wainwright, Nalukataq, Point Lay, and Cape Elizabeth.
And whaling is a year-round process. That has sustained the livelihood of the Inupiat people over the years. It's a story that not very many people can tell.
Agvigum Ilitqusia, spirit of the whale. The spirit of the whale has been known for hundreds of years, thousands of years. We call it Inupiat. Inupiat is a gift from God.
Nalukataq, Nuksit, Barrow, Wainwright, Point Lay, Point Hope, Kivalina, Wales, Little Diomede, Gamble, and Savunga. Those are the communities that make up the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission.
It is always a great feeling when you are successful in landing a whale, because you know that you're going to feed your people and share that whale with your community. That's something that, as a whaling captain and my wife, always treasure, because we've been brought up to help others and share with others of our successful hunts.
In June, successful whalers have their blanket toss to celebrate their harvest.
First, we have the bringing up of the boat called Apoadi, where we serve some mikiak, that's fermented whale meat, duck soup, to show the community that we are home, we have been successful, and we want to share some of that success with our community.
That one-day event, there's a lot of preparation for over a month.
Preparation for cutting the whale, and we just feel it. It's there, that you're in the preparation for it. Bring back good memories, just the way how you prepare the whale. And I'm excited, to treat the community, even our guests that comes to Nalukataq.
There was an elder years ago that had made a comment about sharing and providing, because he was a great whaler. And he said, I am nothing compared to my wife, because she's a whaling captain's wife. And she has the best job of all. It's sharing to the whole community.
Your crew, their wives, their children take part in the distribution of the bowhead whale. It's hard to describe the joy that you have of feeding a whole community for a day. That is the greatest honor that the captain has, is feeding his people.
After all the feast and the blanket jumping, they have the Eskimo dance. That's a way of giving thanks to the Creator. I think the ultimate climax of the hunt is right there at the Eskimo dance. You can really feel the joy the whale gives to the community. It's really huge when you feel it inside.
That's what our whale hunting is all about, to share, to celebrate, and have a good time with your members of the community.
Knowing that somewhere, sometime, this meant life or death for someone, and them freely passing it on, teaching it to whoever, and then it coming up to me, you can't just throw something like that away. You have to hold on to it. And the happiness, it brings.
I mean, it was a sad day. I remembered when they first put the quota up. My God, how could we just go out for 3 when we're used to, 15 or, abundance of whale meat and muktuk? And it was a sad, sad day. No different than all of a sudden we taken away the beef for America, or pasta for the Italians. You don't just give those up because somebody said there were too few.
In the early counts, federal scientists had a lot to learn. The biologists were out on the ice using binoculars, and every time they'd see a whale, they'd collect and say, okay, there's one more. And the lead would freeze, or the ice would come in, and the hunters would say, well, the scientists would all go back to town and take a shower and get a hot meal. But while they were back in town, the whales were still migrating underneath the ice.
And at the time, the IWC science body was not comfortable interpolating between periods of open and closed leads. So if you had a week when the lead was closed during the peak migration period, we couldn't correct for that.
And some of their early estimates were really, really low. And the hunters and the elders said, there's a lot more whales out there than what the federal scientists are counting.
It was the whaling captains that came together and said, okay, we need to organize and we need to be at the table, and how do we do this? How can we convince the federal government that there are more whales than what they are counting? How can we put ourselves in a position to share that information with them and for them to take us seriously?
And they really wanted to hire their own scientists, so the Department of Wildlife Management was formed, and scientists moved to Barrow and started working with the local community to better understand bowhead whales, understand how many whales there were, what the population was doing, whether it was going up or down.
Tom Albert was the lead senior scientist at the time, and to his credit, he sought advice from the community and from scientists both.
It took many years for the international community to agree that whales weren't scared of ice, that they could migrate and swim under ice, and in fact the whales could even break through the ice, breathe, and then keep going on their migration. because of that, we needed to develop, or the Bureau needed to develop a new technique for counting whales when we couldn't see them. And so monitoring their vocalizations was the way to do that.
Like if this is a lead edge, you have hydrophones at known surveyed locations. So a whale calling here, boom, migrating this way.
By incorporating these acoustic techniques, we could hear about 20 kilometers out, whereas the visual technique, we could only see about 4 kilometers out. So we're able to take our visual sightings and correct it for whales that were beyond the area where we could see.
Early on, it was apparent that there were whales passing way beyond observer vision. Really, one of the big breakthroughs was after 10 years of counting, we were able to show that the population was increasing. The last estimate was close to 17,000, and the harvest level is still at 67 strikes a year. One of the most remarkable things these animals do is ice navigation. I guess it's sort of a weight of evidence that bowheads are doing pretty darn well. The importance of collaboration, working together, it was clear early on and so apparent in this entire process that having the biologists work closely with the hunters is the best course. It's sort of a case where there's a synergy that occurs and you actually get a far better project. Everyone's involved. They're involved in the science and the management aspects.
There was lots of interest in oil and gas exploration in the Chukchi and the Beaufort Seas in the 80s especially, and a little bit into the early 90s. In some cases, there were seismic surveys that occurred, or drilling that occurred, that made it very difficult for communities to get whales. Maybe 1 or 2 years in the mid-80s, when Kaktovik wasn't able to land any whales because there were drill rigs or there were seismic surveys going on around their villages. That's what led to the development of the Conflict Avoidance Agreement.
It didn't come easy. I think it took years of persistence from the whaling captains to say, wait a minute here. There are regulations or rules in place that do protect us, and we want to apply those in this situation.
That eventually led to amendments to the Marine Mammal Protection Act that said subsistence hunting would be protected, that whales would still be available to hunters and they couldn't be deflected away from the villages by seismic surveys or drilling operations, that kind of a thing.
It became very effective. If you can quiet down the ocean and let the whales relax and use their typical migratory routes and feeding areas, you have a successful hunt.
And with the increase with shipping activity and research being conducted in the Arctic, it's been a recent challenge to get the other players that are out in the ocean to the table. It's very important for our people to continue to work with the tools that we have and the tools that we've learned over the years that help us put us in a good position. And the conflict avoidance is a great example of that.
We work closely with the National Marine Fisheries Service on science, but also on management. The National Marine Fisheries Service is the main government agency that deals with International Whaling Commission issues. Ryan Wolf has been the Deputy Commissioner for the U.S. for many years.
When we go to the Commission, we have to demonstrate that the science supports the hunt from a sustainability point of view. We have to demonstrate that we're doing our best on efficiency and welfare needs. One of the biggest difficulties we've seen from the United States perspective of getting our catch limits renewed has been the high number of struck and lost whales that we've had in Alaska.
The darting gun and the shoulder gun were introduced here in northern Alaska by the Yankee whalers in the 1800s. The introduction of those weapons made it easier for Inuit to hunt whales here, but the weaponry is very old. The AWC started working on a weapons improvement program to try to develop weapons that would kill whales quickly and to reduce suffering of the whales and make things safer for everybody. The AWC connected with Dr. Agvigum, a Norwegian veterinarian who has worked on whale killing methods for much of his career.
AWC decided that the hunt here in Alaska should be carried out with traditional weapons. And so I had very little room for development. I had this very old-fashioned weapon, and the projectile had to be developed into that weapon.
The weapons improvement program has been a challenge for everybody to be involved with. Trying to use modern weaponry or a modern grenade in technology really comes from the 1800s, presents lots of technical challenges.
Bring your darting gun, just a darting gun, and for fitting and training with Weapons Improvement Committee at Heritage Center, 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
A lot of difference between that bentrite bomb and a regular black bottle projectile.
So the whole projectile is 12 inches long or something, and it's loaded into a barrel on the darting gun. And the pusher shell is at the base of the barrel near the action of the darting gun. And so when you throw the harpoon, there's two things that happen. One, it embeds a toggling harpoon tip in the whale attached to a line, so you've got a float attached to the whale. And the second thing it does is there's a trigger that sticks out front, actuates the action, which fires the pusher shell and pushes the bomb into the whale. And at that point you have 4 seconds and the bomb goes off and kills the whale.
Hunters here in Alaska, I know them from Norway. That's the same people. The same people you find in Chukotka. The same people you find in Japan, in Greenland, in Iceland. They are the same people. Every hunter wants the animal and quick death for the animal.
And now, over the past decade, we've been at or over 75–80% efficiency of the hunt.
Well, the snow is a message from God. And this type of snow means, they call it Ilitqusia, means the air is filled with oil. Then that oil is coming from the whales. And whales are nearby. And today is Friday the 16th, and I could smell the ocean. Imakshonitchuk means you could smell the ocean and you could feel the animals, and that's what we're experiencing, this snow, whale snow. And it's a message from our Creator that we've been blessed with throughout our lives, and we learn from our parents, and mothers and elders that root for people that want to bless their communities. And the opening day for Barrow will be on Monday. And with this weather, that is a message from him that whales are going to be landed very soon. And I hope all the whalers the best of luck. I hope they are very successful in the next few days.
The U.S. has worked very closely with the AEWC on making sure that when we go to the Commission, we have the best possible story to tell.
The community came to the table, both figurative table with the federal government, but also the international table, and brought information and say, here's what we know about bowhead whales, here's the science to prove it, here's our traditional knowledge. And the scientists and the hunters, the traditional knowledge working together became a real powerful tool to influence the international community to establish a quota.
AEWC, when it comes together as one, we're powerful. And we learn from them and they learn from us. So it's very productive when we come together.
Это действительно вот такая организация является моделью. Она имеет опыт, она уже знает, как нужно, какие пути существуют. Не всегда нужно в открытую дверь ломиться. Есть разные способы войти в эту дверь. Она знает пути достижения. Это, конечно, модель организации промысла, модель управления промыслом, модель контроля за популяциями. Это модель взаимодействия с учеными, модель взаимодействия с правительством. Это вот она вобрала в себя практически вот все, что нужно. То есть это реальная модель. Если что-то подобное кому-то нужно, тут есть чему поучиться. Есть люди, которые могут научить. Меня многому здесь научили.
The IWC has made a real transition over the last 2 decades from a rather improvisational management strategy where they looked at the abundance of the population and sort of on the back of the envelope decided on a suitable quota, to the point now where they've adopted a highly sophisticated computer algorithm and statistical analysis framework that provides much more scientifically defensible quota calculations and still allows for expert judgment from the Commission with input from the AWC and the hunters.
So we have to advocate for ourselves with the knowledge that we have, on the resource that we depend on for our sustenance.
Почему это важно? Еще в 1995 году, когда я только приступил к работе комиссионеров, членов комиссии стран, участников конвенции, было около 30. Сейчас 90. Все больше и больше стран вступает в конвенцию, как правило, с природоохранной идеологией. Главная задача стран — указание делегациям, политика этих стран — не трогать китов ни при каких условиях.
It is an increasingly political arena that is frequented by deadlock and polarization due to conflicting views. And the unfortunate result of that, more often than not, is directed right at Aboriginal subsistence whaling, because it is the only whaling managed by the Commission. They constantly have to go back, prove their case, explain about their hunt, explain about their lifestyle, explain about their culture to a room of folks who 75 to 80% were not there the last time they went and explained it. So it's a challenge, but it's one that we've been able to overcome repeatedly in recent past due to close work with the Alaska Eskimo Whaling Commission.
Политики зачастую забывают, что Для коренных жителей охота на кита – это не спорт. Это не только их образ жизни, это возможность вообще жить.
People oppose whaling for a number of reasons. One, they believe they should be left alone. Others believe that no animal should be killed, whether it's on land or on shore. Others don't have the knowledge or the education of the population, and they think they're extinct based on the status as they're listed in the Marine Mammal Protection Act. But there are some people, no matter how hard you try, will continue to believe that we shouldn't hunt. And there are others that'll change their mind once they've learned who we are, why we do it, and self-managing, understanding the self-management to make sure the population sustains itself based on the hunt that we do. So it goes both ways.
Boat, base, radio checked. We're just starting the power antenna wire. Kaya nakasala sila gawin, antenna wire po doon. Connecting kasunga mo doon. Pinakpag, good luck.
We started getting ready right after the celebration in June. We were right back. It's a cycle. We start all over again.
There's no time to sit around. You need to be prepared for the whaling season, because when it comes, everything needs to work out smoothly.
Do we need new skins to sew a new umer? So we need to get our crews, our families ready to go out and hunt uruk to make sure that we have enough skins to fit a new skin boat. When a caribou is harvested and it's brought home, just the preparation and putting the food away so that when springtime comes around and people are out on the ice, that you have properly stored food.
I learned from my mother, mostly just standing and babysitting my sisters, my younger siblings, just watching her, standing beside her and watch her, and she would tell me what she's doing.
When I was 18 and graduating from high school, I decided that I was going to make my first parka. And I did, with little or no help from my mom, until I realized that I couldn't do it alone. It's huge. It's something that the responsibility just doesn't go away when whaling season is done. Once you've become a whaling captain's wife, your whole mindset is all about preparing, gathering food.
The thing about the whale to the Eskimo and its spirit, the Ilitqusia, Agvigum, is there's so much around it, because when you caribou hunt, you're going for your hides or to sleep on the ice. When you're bearded seal hunting, you're going to go get the skins. When you're gathering food, the ducks, the fish, is all timed because you're going to go out whaling. And you're preparing all the time to go whaling. And even when you are are having fun looking for caribou. You're subconsciously thinking and you're talking to your buddies about how great it will be for the whale hunt. So it's part of the spirit that we've long believed that if you have a clean place, clean entry, that the whale will give itself to the Eskimo.
Made this ice cellar in 1999. And we use an ice pick and a jackhammer. It's about 14 feet high and radius maybe 8 feet around from the center. So it's pretty big and huge. This is where we store our whale, muktuk and meat, and tongue with chick. This is part of the whaling crew share we had during the spring hunt. Each crew who helps butchers a whale will get a share, and they divide it to the whaling crew members, and then they bring the rest in the ice cellar because the freezers they have in their home, freezers are just too small for a big share like this. So that's how we have the ice cellars to store our whale, our caribou, our fish, and our geese. White front geese and eider ducks. All right, ready to pull up? I better be careful. Every spring hunt, when you have an ice cellar, you clean it and put fresh snow, because a whale who gives itself to the community want to, stay in a nice, clean ice cellar. So that's how we've been passing our tradition from our forefathers, that they had ice cellars, and the tradition is to clean it before a spring hunt. Our other one, it filled up with water, my grandpa's. All right. And that was, probably made in the 50s or 60s. So, it was already 40 plus years old, and over years, ice cellars tend to fill up with water. So we had our own whaling crew. So we just, in order to have a whaling crew, you got to have an ice cellar to store your food. So we made this ice cellar here.
What we call in preparation for whaling to us is living up here. It's just our way of life that whatever we do, we're getting it. It's in preparation of the whale.
Anytime you go out into that ocean, you're putting your life at risk. Are you willing to put your life at risk? No man runs that ocean. Nobody. No government, no person runs that ocean out there but itself. And this is God's country out there. You can't stop it. It's very unforgiving. Whatever you do, you better make sure you're taking care of yourself and you're going to be able to come back.
Seems like there's more wind, resulting in choppy water, sometimes colder weather, sometimes some warmer weather. But you have to consider all these conditions and take advantage of what you see out there. A lot of times we go out there, and even when we land a whale, we have to return home as quick as possible because the wind is picking up again, you know.
What's happened in the last 20 or 30 years with climate change has been huge. Ice retreat is incredibly visible. It's something that I've seen in the 23 years that I've lived in Barrow. There have been times in the last 200 years when the sea ice never retreated from the Beaufort Sea or the Chukchi Sea, but now it's much different than that. The ice is retreating hundreds of miles north, and there are times in the summer when you may not see a piece of ice on the ocean at all.
Between 2000 and 2012, most of those years were the warmest years on record here in Barrow. We've seen an increase in the amount of snow we get. Of course, that goes along with the warming. Warm air holds more moisture, and when we start cooling off for the wintertime, we start seeing that in the form of rain and snow. When I came to Barrow in 1996, we didn't have open water until around about the middle of June. Whalers would go out, they would get wells fairly close into shore with large leads opening up. Around 2000, we saw a major change in the ice conditions. The ice was breaking up earlier and earlier. We were seeing open water in middle of April versus the middle of June.
What they refer to is kind of like blue ice, when it's glaciated and the salt is moved down from the beating of the sun, and it's multi-year ice. We had a lot of that, and it was very, very thick. Now we have thin ice.
So when I was a kid, we'd be on big pans of ice like this all the time along the edge. And it's been like 5 or 6 years since we've been on a solid chunk of ice like this. It's always been this real small, scattered stuff that we've been on. And so you're barely scraping by on this stuff, which is really dangerous because once that stuff breaks up, it goes really fast.
One of the major problems that we have here on the North Slope with the ice breaking up and moving out is with the storms moving up in the fall. And we have an open fetch of water that's 400 miles, and we have 20 to 30 knots of wind moving over that water. It builds up a lot of force on the waves. It causes the waves to increase, and we'll have a lot of breakers on the shore that are 12 feet or higher. And that's been one of our major concerns.
And in recent past, we've lost one boat and almost all of its crew after the sea got pretty rough on us, and he was pitch dark. Some of those crew people in that boat lost their lives, and they were never found. So climate change results in dangerous conditions a lot of times now. So that's what we have to watch out for and adapt to that the best we can. We try to consider everything when we are out whaling. There's a lot of things to watch out for and take advantage of, you know. We pray for good weather, and we're blessed with good weather sometimes. So life continues.
When my father was whaling and I was not old enough to go out on the ice, I would have to go kokok. Kokok means that you go on top of the house and you shout with your might and you wish your whalers good luck.
You know there's a flat spot out there at the edge. You kind of can see it from a distance. So you kind of guesstimate that that's the general area where you want to head to.
When there's open water, there's no time to rest, so we stay up much as we can, help other crews as much as we can.
A lot of physical work that go into breaking a trail. Sometimes you're breaking a trail 2 to 4 miles out on the ice through pressure ridges to get to where you can hunt. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 different crews, whaling crews, working together to go in the same general area that's going to break a trail.
And that's just what it takes. It's just a lot of endurance, a lot of manpower, a lot of will, and just no turning back.
We call it umekati. Umekati means there's other crews that need to be there because we work together and hunt together as teams, you know.
They don't even put the tent up until they're done getting everything on the ice ready to catch a whale.
I guess the stress built up from being on shore for the amount of communications and work-related activities that I'd have to deal with. I mean, I try to leave it all on shore. Whenever I go out, I try to refocus all my thought directly just for hunting. Bring a whale home, hunting, paddling the boat, you know, things that I need to keep myself up to par on to keep the umiak frame one piece.
I've been whaling since since I was in my early 20s, actually. Up to the present, I'm still a captain yet. You learn by going out with everybody else, my family or dad or grandpa. We learn whaling that way, by listening and watching and everything. No books, no paper.
That patience is, you know, you learn about it when you're young, following your uncles and your parents, and how to be quiet, learning how to find freshwater ice. We call it pukalaya.
I started as a little boy, taking care of the tent, getting water.
Being the camp, you know, get around guy, taking orders, and so while these guys were out in the boat and whatnot, I was pretty much dealing with the camp. Yeah. That was kind of my sole duty when I was young.
So you have an awful lot of time to talk when you're whaling, because sometimes you don't see one for 3 days. So you're just sitting out there. Show them how to throw the harpoon. Show them where the kill shots are, where the vital parts are.
And sometimes they would draw it on a piece of cardboard and say, this is where you strike the whale from what angle, depending on where you're on the shore fast ice or on a skin boat next to it.
You could taste it because you were expecting to have the mikiak and have the unalik, but the patience has to be there, and you're waiting for that moment.
Listening to my dad, my uncles, other elders that were on the whaling crew taught us all we need to know and what to watch out for on the ice.
When they start spotting the whales, it's time to be quiet and wait. The whales will dive for 15 to 20 minutes. Then they have to come up for air.
And up and down the line, everybody has to called a VHF, a radio. You can talk to each other.
The person down south reports a whale and tells his neighbor up north, and it passed down, then they expect that whale and be ready to launch your boat, or it might come up right in front of you. You never know, but you're expecting that whale.
On the first blow, the whale always listens, and he's looking. A whale has actually really good sense of hearing. So on the first blow, we never move. We just sit still. And then when it goes under, we'll silently go to the boat. And right when the second blow is starting to blow, that's when we put the boat in the water. It's all about timing when you get down there.
One day our captain said, "You sit underneath me. We're going to go out, and there's a whale that I've been timing on his watch how long that whale's been diving and the direction it's moving." Because the whales were moving away from the shore fast ice. And while they're paddling, they kept looking at the watch. And then when they figured we're getting close to the time the whale will surface, he turned the boat around, and the whale would surface in front of it. And the harpooner would just strike the whale.
Every Eskimo boy dreams of becoming a harpooner, becoming a whale hunter. Our heroes were those people that can catch a whale and feed the entire community and beyond.
There's always a lot of adrenaline flowing when you jump in that boat and start paddling towards the whale and being able to strike it. That's where you most feel the adrenaline in you when you're a harpooner.
My knees were shaking, and I don't know how much stronger I could feel when you're like that.
And they told me, you go up front, be a harpooner. I was 27 years old when I became a harpooner. And I was so excited. On my first throw, I threw my harpoon over the whale. It went over the whale, and my father said, "What happened?"
When I'm excited is when that second that whale is right next to you. I think about that almost every day. That whale is gonna come up right in front of you. That's the part where I think all the whalers are excited for, is when that moment is in front of you. And you never know when that moment is gonna be. I won't lie. To me, that I stay up for days when I was young for that spot.
Harry! Move! It's automatic. Whatever you've been taught, whatever you've talked over, whatever you've trained your mind for, it's happening. It's all happening. So we're getting closer to the whale without thinking. I pull my oar in, quietly, silent, put it in the side, take my gloves off. My uncle had joked the night before. Yeah, when you're harpooning the whale, he's real, he shows a lot with his hands. When you're harpooning the whale, grab it with your cookies, your nails, So I take my gloves off and I grab the harpoon, and this whale's right here. And what I remember before throwing the harpoon, I remember looking into the blowhole, and it's flaring like its nostrils like mine are now. It was flaring, and it right there, you could hear it. And I lift up my harpoon, and as I'm throwing, I hear my dad, "Harpoon it." And I throw, and then I remember watching the tip of the harpoon go into the muktuk, and the penetration, it went in so far, and then it cut through, And I remember watching that, and And then I watched it as the harpoon went in. I watched the trigger rod hit, the whole thing. I saw this puff of smoke. I smell it, you know, that smell. And then we go past it, and I hear the bomb blow up. And what I've always expected was the rope to start going. You know, everything's gonna start going, the whale's gonna go. No rope. I started throwing the rope. Hurry up, happen, you know? I wanted all this stuff to happen. And then I realized that the whale had died instantly. We went around, and I was looking at the whale, and it was dawning upon me that we just got a whale. So then I started screaming, and my dad said, quiet. So we stayed quiet, because, you know, there have been whales that were knocked out only, but I was pretty sure this one it had given itself, you know?
The tuvok, the ice that we were on, and the pack ice, the saji, formed a bottleneck, so we had whales coming on both sides, maybe 60 yards from us. She was facing the ice's edge. When she come up, instead of going under the ice, turned 45 degrees. That point where when she turned, that's when I knew that we were gonna harvest this whale. Before I threw the harpoon, I could see her eye focusing on me, you know, and so I was ready, because we called it to imoksa. You throw the harpoon in the water, and I was ready to do that and expecting to do that, but she's just stayed up. That's when I knew she was giving herself, and threw the harpoon, and grabbed the shoulder gun, and the guy had the floats, and it didn't take any of the line out. Extremely blessed to be a recipient of, you know, the gift of the whale, and to experience it the way I did. After we got the whale secure, the emotions really kicked in, you know, and it was just what the doctor ordered, really. Pretty special.
Amen.
They'll say a short prayer, then tie the flippers.
And it's usually Agvale, meaning, you know, that crew has gotten a whale. Agvale, hey, hey, hey.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, God, for today. Thank you, for God, for giving us this special day, Lord, that you had provided for us. And we thank you most of all for the gift of the whale you had given for the Ikayo crew, kuya nakaptigin at anik. We thank you, umatiptinit, kuya nakapaglutin, plus ang luwilo, plus all those who have been preparing the food, cooking, baking, and getting everything ready.
Let's get some guys on that line! Let him put! It's good! Keep going, a little bit more! Tell them we're safe off the edge. All hands, front the leg!
And, you know, some people cry and some people laugh. It all depends on, you know, your emotions are there. And you know, they're hiding, and sometimes when you're tired, you're just so happy that you just cry.
Such an immense animal, you know. It takes a whole village to land a whale and bring it home and divide it up and share it all of it amongst ourselves. And this is what we've been doing all our lives with the bowhead whale.
Thank you very much. God bless. Yay!
Different communities divide the whale up in different ways. Here in Barrow, there's really three main shares. A big part of the share goes to the crews that help to tow the whale to the ice edge or to the beach, and that help to butcher the whale. Then the other two shares go to the whaling captain and his crew, and most of those shares are given out to the community or anybody that happens to come to the festival that's celebrating the hunt and celebrating the whales. And so it's one of the more remarkable things in my view. I've never found any place else, I've never seen any place else in the world where a family will spend a large amount of their cash income to put a crew out on the water, out on the ice to hunt whales. And then if they catch a whale, they give most of the whale to the community. And so it's a very different and very exciting and very positive way for communities to interact, for people to be very willing to share the resources they have with the other people around them.
Of course, when a whale is caught, it means food for the whole community, the promise of a good winter. It's the Nalukataq, just an incredible contribution to the community. And in return, the hunters show great reverence and also protect it. They've been probably the single strongest voice in protecting bowhead habitat over the last 30 years, no question.
I'm so blessed that I've learned from hunters who have passed on and able to be out there with them when they were in their prime. And I'm at the age now where I'm blessed to be teaching my brother's grandsons and granddaughters, my nephews.
Forefathers, it was like a religious activity to them, a sacred way of life by hunting the whale in the great ocean out there. Because that is our favorite food and keeps us alive. That's what the spirit of the whale means to me anyway.
It really feeds our culture and our self-pride of who we are as Inupiat people. And I think that we're really blessed that today in this world that we can still have that feeling and connection to who we are as Inupiat people.
Us young guys, we're the future, and we're pulling this whale in, and it's coming in. It's just, we're pulling it, There's no horsepower, it's all manpower, and me and my cousins me and my family, I remember when I was 8, 9, hauling muck duck with hooks and doing work. We're doing it. We're doing it now. We're in business, buddy. It was awesome. It was an awesome feeling.
It's an amazing story to be told and to keep whaling as we know it alive in perpetuity. I think it's our responsibility to share with the world how important whaling is to us as a community. It's not just about the hunt. It's a culture and our traditions that have been alive from time immemorial. And our people have lived it over the years. And we're not about to let it go.
Kivalina kami. Wala ka magsirti lang, hangalok. Pinabasama. O laki kapta. Pagmal naglasuri. At ungayikpot. Asi po lakaloko ta. Takimon. Gayiru grorot. Imedla. Captain na mumedla. Ang ayiru grorot. sebra ulalut kaya naksim mat samua tarimut agayraktut agayun simulir klorok sa kalokata nyunaktim tim taki ilan ko na iatut adaramix kayok tasirop ta agatin makayok katut dan nito kanga baktemang nyunaknit ni amanan kibalina me dan nawa ilu sa kaktut ako magsitini kibalina me mali alat kanukte pirakat sa muktok na dito kanukpin malak Haya 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 hay Yusach kam nun shot moon ye Linga nachlach durch mach bim chao ya kuchtura kam ki unguvat kam nun Mani nun nami tatlikahur Haya 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 hay Yusach kam nun shot moon ye Unani makbig mika Agayutum ka bayuk sa